Is this all?
This is everybody, yep.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order then. And
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Linda,
Here.
Cassie,
Here.
Matt,
Here.
Troy. And Gary, is it?
Correct.
Okay, here. And who, I'm missing some.
Jody.
Jody, right. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. And has everyone looked at the minutes?
Three steps in it. Yep. June 9th, July 10th, and July 17th. I tried to keep them short, sweet, to the point with all the pertinent information, so.
Are there any corrections or additions? If not, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Also move.
I'll second it.
Motion made and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Reorganization. So you take over.
I do, because we have a new member, we do need to reorganize the board. So at this time, I will take over as temporary chair and call for nominations for chair. We are missing 2 members. We cannot nominate members who are not here. We have tried that.
I'll nominate that.
And you don't have to accept. If you are nominated, you do not have to take it if you don't want to. Just as an FYI. You're not forced into the role, so.
I'll second that nomination. You're doing chair right now, right?
Yes. Do you accept the nomination?
Yeah, I accept the nomination. I
Okay.
will have to admit some of the procedures I'll have to
That's
Oh, we all.
perfectly.
we all-
give a little more efficient.
That's
Rules of
okay.
order is
That
none of
is
our
okay.
friend.
Yep, okay, so we have a nomination for Matt, with a second. Do I see any other nominations? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to cast a unanimous ballot.
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second for a unanimous ballot. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Matt, you are chair and the floor is yours.
So do we now need to nominate somebody as the vice chair?
Yes.
Do we have any volunteers? Bill, do
Me,
you,
I'm on another board.
Bill, do you
I've
wanna
got a lot.
return to the vice chair
I can
position?
do that.
Okay. I will nominate Bill as the vice chair.
I'll second that nomination.
Anybody else? Okay, we need a motion to cast a unanimous ballot.
So can we have a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Bill as vice chair?
I would move to cast that unanimous ballot.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bill is now again the vice chair of planning and zoning. Now we have building permit number 1070 for Kirk and Linda Mays for a garden shed and a deck addition.
Everybody should have a copy. They did just submit this today and I'm like, well, we're here, it's building permit, we're good. I didn't see any
No.
issues with it.
They're rebuilding their deck. And then, just a little, they don't know exact garden shed, but just a little one to keep stuff together, so
So we figured we'd just do it all at one time and.
not have to worry about it.
Makes sense? Get it done quicker rather than longer.
Yep.
Do you have a motion to approve the building permit?
I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Vote?
Have to do roll call vote or just,
Yes.
I could do a roll call
Right, Bill?
vote. Aye.
Cassie?
Aye.
Linda?
aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Motion approved. Next on the agenda is the state geological survey request for test holes for small, rare earth and critical mineral exploration.
So State Geological Survey contacted me the other day, basically just asking what our procedures are for them coming out to, basically they take like I don't know, probably something this big around, or big, I don't know, they dig a hole, they put a pipe down it, they either take a core sample or they don't, depending on what they find, to look for coal reserves, and then potential for rare earth and critical minerals. Other counties, Mercer County, I believe, requires a permit for this. We have nothing within our ordinance discussing this. So I said I would bring it to planning and zoning first for a recommendation to the commissioners. They said the entire thing is done within a couple of hours. They dig the hole, they test it, and they fill it right back up again. And then they leave.
Do they
How
have to
many
get,
of these holes do they want to dig?
They didn't specify an amount. They just, I mean, they're looking for coal reserves in different areas of the county to see if there is places to start mining coal.
Do they have to get permission from the landowners, I guess?
Yes, they will have to do that. And I think the comment that was made by Dave Berger was if they have something in writing that says, like, if you're going on landowner, you know, if you're going there, get permission from the landowner, and to make sure that you fill that hole back up. I mean, obviously we're hoping that they would follow through on that, but yeah, if we want something in writing, not necessarily a permit, but a guarantee that you're asking for landowner permission and you will be filling these holes back up, I don't think they would have an issue with that. Like I said, Mercer County did require a permit, but Morton and there was one other one, not McLean County, they haven't gone up there. They didn't require anything.
they don't require anything when they go out and test for gravel. I
No,
mean, it's the same process.
Right,
They
we did
auger a hole
require-
and then-
we did require permits when they did, like test wells for CO2. That was a requirement of a permit, but that was
a
more of a,
permanent thing?
yeah, that was more of a permanent thing. For this, it's, yeah, like I said, they dig a hole, fill it back up within a couple of hours, so. Kinda looking for your guys' recommendation, because I told them we have nothing in our ordinance that specifies testing of any type, except for oil and gas, which is a whole other area.
So as long as they have permission from the owners
Mhm.
and they, you know, you don't want something that a cow's gonna step in and break a leg.
Right,
Or a human,
Yeah.
for that matter.
And are they gonna do this throughout the county?
Yeah, I think he said it would just be in varying spots throughout the county, kind of where they, are aware of coal reserves currently. I know there's some kind of to the north here and maybe a little bit out west. They're just kind of looking in different areas. It's more so not necessarily for coal because they are aware of where some of these reserves are. It's more so testing it for the rare earth critical mineral components.
They're gonna provide any mapping back for that, so that the county knows where these things are
If
at.
we want them to, I'm sure that, you know, if we have some type of requirement, like, I can ask Mercer County what they required as far as their permitting.
I would think if they find something, they would have to get permits and probably go through
Absolutely,
industrial.
they can't just go and mine it, they have to get the permits for it,
Would
but.
that go through industrial commission or PSC?
What's the PSC?
Well, I was also thinking from the aspect of like doing the comprehensive plan and looking at the different parts of the county that wanna be protected.
Yep.
Knowing what's being found out there would
Yep.
help us in here when people are coming
Making
in.
those future plans and.
Right.
Yep,
That would
yeah,
probably
absolutely,
bring that avoidance zone thing in.
possibly, yeah. Coal kind of takes a front seat to a lot of other industries, so.
I don't think we need to take on as some landowners in Canterbury.
Yeah, and like I said, I will take this to the county commissioners also, kind of as their, what they would possibly prefer, but I'm looking for maybe more of a recommendation. If you don't feel we need to do a permit, that's acceptable. Most counties I don't think did, other than Mercer County. I can see what they required of the permit. But, you know, he said we're in and out within a couple of hours. It's not a permanent thing. We're not gonna be hanging out for months at a time, so.
I think permission and the reclamation of it would be the most important aspect.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we would need a permit for that. If the landowner doesn't want it, they can just say no. And
Yeah.
They would have to ask the landowner,
Yeah.
not just go and just.
I would certainly hope so. His thing was they are looking more on like, possibly some private landowners, but we do have some trust lands here. And so they're kind of looking at state trust lands first, and then they would possibly expand out. So if it's state land already, it's the State Geological Survey. I think their big thing was just to, if somebody's poking around and somebody notices it, where they're not, it's not gonna be an issue, so.
But maybe it'd be a good idea for him to publicize it beforehand.
Sure.
Something in the news.
Yeah, I think, other companies have done that when they have like claims out surveying, they put like a notice out with the sheriff's department saying like, hey, so-and-so's out flying a plane looking at stuff, or somebody else is out surveying land with this company, if you notice a white pickup with this logo, that's what it is, kind of a thing. So yeah, we could definitely recommend that, at the very least, just kind of a notice that we're gonna be in the area.
Yeah, they should, especially if they do it on like state lands, say that's rented out to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Then they
person
got-
with cattle in there doesn't know about
Yeah.
it. Now we have liabilities if gates get left open.
Yep.
And
Yep, absolutely,
usually then contractors are good about closing gates, but
usually.
sometimes, sometimes they think that if they don't see a cow, they just think, well, there's none in here.
Mhm.
Sometimes they find out they're surrounded by the entire herd because they're Cindy.
Okay, I will take that, kind of to the commissioners and go from there.
On to ordinance discussions.
Okay, so I sent the email out just as an FYI. Obviously, we are not having our hearings tonight for Wind and Bess due to a oversight by the paper, a mistake. I'm not really sure what happened. I sent them the notices pretty much the day after our last meeting for tonight's hearings. They published them the first week. Somehow it didn't make it into last week's paper. I only found out about it yesterday. So, needless to say, legally, we cannot do the hearing tonight. So we will have to reschedule, the hearing for potentially our August meeting. Don't know that any of us would like to have a special meeting just for that, but it's up to you guys. I would need to know by tonight if we want to do it like the week before our regular meeting, or we just wait until our regular meeting and I have time to get the notice in the paper.
The week before would be the soonest to go.
That's the soonest we could do it, is the week before our regular August meeting. Otherwise, we just wait till our regular meeting and go from
What
there.
date's the regular meeting?
The last Thursday in August. Yeah, the 28th. Yep.
How does it look for that meeting? Are we gonna have,
There is a possibility that we will have a conditional use permit, from, Grid United, the transmission line, North Plains Connector. They did contact me the other day and said that their plan is to submit it to me by August 4th for the August meeting. Whether that happens or not will depend. I mean, if they get it to me, then yes. If not, then we wait until whenever they submit it. So, that is the only thing at this time that I am aware of. Other than we will have to do work on both the solar and data center ordinances. So, but other than that, I have not heard of any other permits coming in that would require significant amount of time. No, there's maybe one building permit, I think, that came in from like a trailer house that they were gonna move on to a property, but that's,
We haven't gotten it yet.
no. So, kind of just waiting to see what you guys would prefer.
I guess since they're done, and we can't get it into the commission by their next meeting anyway, I don't see why we need to.
To rush to get it done,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that, we can wait and.
We're still within our time frame.
Yeah, it's not, they are done, they're just sitting here waiting for a proper hearing and, yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I will make sure that that gets scheduled in the paper, and they did tell me they will check it 100 times before it goes to publication to make
As
sure
well
that
as
it's in there.
everybody in the courthouse
Yeah,
checking it.
yes. So hopefully,
Usually we check the newspapers, just that it's been busy.
Yeah.
Just got overlooked.
usually,
Double
yeah,
check them.
Well, even if it got overlooked, we couldn't put it in.
Right, it would have been too late.
It would have been too late.
so, okay, I will, make sure that that gets rescheduled for the August meeting. And, yeah, we can kind of go from there.
and the solar and data centers? When are we gonna start on that?
Well, I gave everybody a copy of those tonight, and I think I had emailed them out to everybody after the last meeting, just to kind of look over if there were any comments or anything like that. I know a copy was sent to both NextEra and NL, so if there are comments from them, I mean, honestly, if we want to start working on them tonight, just as a brief overview and kind of if there's anything anybody had noticed, we can do that. I would actually kind of prefer to start working on them and get them,
Just in
you
our
know, at
minds
least
and,
started,
yeah.
start the process. With that being said, I know I did send everybody a copy of the, a link to McLean County's ordinances in regards to wind and solar, and I have a copy. It was recommended to me by a few people to take a look at the first portion in here about avoidance zones. I spoke with Vlad Erickson, who is their state's attorney who wrote this, and he also recommended this, as something to have within your ordinances. So I'm leaving it up to all of you to decide if that's something we would like to work into it. I did send it to Patrick, and he said this is something that would be okay to put in there. He said, so long as if an avoidance zone is created, it is, I don't wanna say a legal reason, but it's a valid reason. It's not just because we don't want it there. It's, you know, an environmental, conservation, you know, something like that that has a valid reason to say, no, you can't put this here. Not just because we
Well, it's
don't
might
like
be
it.
good to know what them core samples bring back.
Yeah, yeah. And I do know, and I think the comment was made at a previous meeting, or maybe it was at the steering committee meeting, that the PSC will always take coal first. And so if there is coal in a spot where there is wind, solar, other type of facility, I think we make them remove them. And so I think that's where these companies usually look to avoid those areas. As far as I know, this is what I have been told,
Make a
so.
comment on that?
Yes, absolutely, we would
So-
welcome comments.
The mineral estate in North Dakota is considered the dominant estate. Because if you had to rely on the surface owner to let you go get it, then it wouldn't be worth anything, because the surface owner would have all the control. But essentially, it's not really a PSC thing, it's more of just a legal doctrine. So there's a certain, you know, there's an accommodation doctrine. If you can have both, then the developers kind of need to work amongst each other. But ultimately, the mineral estate is dominant, so they can go in and get the minerals. There's a lot of caveats to that stuff too, but that's the general principle.
Thank you.
So, I mean, with that being said, that's kind of why these avoidance zones, I think, were brought into play. Like, if we know there's potential coal reserve there, as a county, as the commission, they can say, well, we know this is here, but there's nothing here. We'd rather you put it over here. And because Lad wrote this, we're
He's hard to argue with.
pretty safe with that. I wouldn't have brought this if it was just, you know, some random offering off the street kind of thing, so.
So in their ordinance, do they have something written out for avoidance zones?
It's the very first part under general provisions, a preliminary public hearing.
Well, I'm reading it.
Yeah,
here,
through an
but
avoidance zone, the county may
It's
deny
under
it.
wind and solar facilities.
Yes.
But I was asking if they have it
Oh, just like
in
a
a general
general,
place that covers any, and so,
not that I'm aware of.
or is it something we should add into all of ours?
I don't know that we could. That is where it kind of comes into, because like pipelines and transmission lines, the PSC, they cite those. We don't, I mean, the county doesn't get to say you can't put it here. They will say you will be putting this here, kind of a thing. So, but for this type of facility, wind and solar in particular, because the county has a little bit more,
Say.
Would they put a
Little bit
pipeline
more
through a
say.
future coal vein though?
I
Right.
don't know, probably not, but
Right.
I guess if that was the only place to put it, I mean,
That's what I'm saying, as far
as
as like solar and data center, you wouldn't wanna build one of those on
on
where
a
there's-
potential coal mine,
Right.
no, absolutely not. Which, yeah, that's where something like this comes into play, saying like, well, we do know that this could be there. Or, you know, an example was, this location is a prime hunting location. It's a conservation type thing. We have wildlife here. If you put something like this here, it's gonna scare them away. Then we have a problem. It has to be a valid reason, not
Right.
just,
Yep.
you know, whatever, but
Now, are we talking about adding that to the ordinance we already wrote?
I mean, because we're not at a hearing, it's an option, I would think. If we don't add it tonight, there's always the ability to amend these ordinances in the future. It's up to you guys, and then
I think it's a
obviously,
good idea.
we would send it to Patrick to just kind of verify, that everything is fine, and, you know, then take it to the commissioners for their final approval. I'm not telling you guys what I'm giving you the information, and what you do with it is,
What was the one that you were talking about at the last meeting to where if 50 citizens to say, you know, we don't want it in this area.
That would be
The
this.
public hearing.
There is a portion in here that any persons with interest in land included within an avoidance zone may petition the commission to be heard regarding removing it from their land. So it's basically, how it was explained to me is that with this portion in particular, if you have a resident landowner and a non-resident landowner, one wants it, one doesn't, they both can come to the commission, and if a majority say, we don't want this because of these valid reasons, not just because we don't like it, the commissioners can say, well, because of these valid reasons, no, we're not gonna do it here. That was kind of how it was explained to me. Obviously, if we need more explanation, I'm sure Lad would be willing to.
Wouldn't it also help people that are renting land they don't own, and like the owner is out of state or whatever?
It's possible. It is kind of more resident, the landowner more than a renter, but you would hope that
Well,
that
it's just
landowner.
with interests in, that
Well,
doesn't
yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
mean they own it.
Yeah.
It could be they rent it or.
You would
they-
hope that a rentor is talking
Or they
with,
manage it, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever.
you would hope that they're talking with the people that they rent their land to, but
So
we
instead
know
of,
that's not always the case, so.
instead of having to put this in every single different ordinance we have, like we kind of discussed, but if it's possible to do something on.
Kind of like this provision is specific to these ordinances, rather than putting it within there, kind of, I mean, because we couldn't do it.
Beyond wind and solar, though.
Yeah, and I don't know that we could do a blanket one, that's kind of where that kind of arises, we couldn't do a blanket avoidance zone portion of this, just because they're with the PSC and industrial condition.
Or would you be able to put it under the conditional use section? And then have it referenced to?
I mean, we could possibly do that, where you add this portion in there and say, this applies to wind, solar,
Right.
whatever it could
And then
apply
just put
to.
something in there for PSC, you know, where if it's a, you know, a subject that the PSC would cover, obviously don't apply there.
Sure.
I think we have something like that with similar wording. Like the PSC part of it.
Yeah, within
Like
these,
if the
within the
state-
ordinances, if the state, you know,
Yeah,
takes precedence, primacy, whatever,
yeah.
then those rules apply versus ours.
I'm just saying we have some.
Yeah, we did
we
put
could
that in
use-
the wind and, vest as far as the decommissioning and that kind of
Right,
stuff, but
but
this would be similar, that yes,
Right, if we put
this
that in,
applies to wind and solar or wind, you know, whatever. Unless the PSC has whatever wording you want to throw in there. Yeah,
Well-
it's an option.
There is some of these wind farms that have been rejected by the PSC because of local opposition. That'd be the same thing, wouldn't it?
Right, yeah, as far as I know, like, so if the commissioners have, you know, denied a permit because of the valid reasons, and that gets taken to the PSC, and the PSC says, well, yeah, this is a valid reason that we don't want this here, I believe that that's how that kind of.
should work.
I'm relatively new to all of this, trust me, like 3 years ago, I didn't pay as close attention to this stuff as I do now, so. You pay attention to it, but not to the depth that when you're.
We have to.
So. So I guess you guys tell me what you wanna do,
This could be added to the wind one, because we're not,
because we're not in the hearing, yes, technically we could add that to the draft, because it has not been formally heard, read, adopted, or
we're
anything
putting
like
both
that.
of them in. Wind and solar.
And, yeah, if that's what you guys wanna do, and I would imagine we could do this for data centers and BESS. But,
Well, see, I guess in that part B, it says right in there that the county incorporates and adopts all North Dakota Public Service Commission laws and rules. So they're basically saying, this is how we want to do it, but we also recognize the state's authority.
Right.
There was another point we were talking about this week about setbacks for wind towers because they're making them taller.
Oh, I think that was brought up, I think Dave had mentioned that to me, that if we have a standard 500-foot setback, what if the turbine is like 750 feet? And in the event that it should tip over,
Isn't there something, I don't remember.
that's kind of like past the 500 foot.
More than 1/2 of the height of the turbine
Yeah.
plus 75 feet from the center line.
Right, so
2A on the second page of this
Oh,
ordinance.
this is Mercer County.
This is
McLean.
McLean.
McLean,
Yeah,
yeah.
that they have that right there.
Okay.
and ours, is it just 500 feet or does it mention?
I don't believe ours
The
say
1.5
1.5 times.
No, I think we
it's
had
just
discussed it.
500.
When NextEra came in, they said PSC, I think correct me if I'm wrong, whoever's listening, and you can speak up if you're on the teams, unmute yourself and just say, hey, because I'm not fully paying attention to the screen right now. That I think we had put the 500 feet because that is currently what the PSC's requirement is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Comments from anybody out in the crowd, because you guys are in this industry, so I don't want to overstep saying something wrong, so.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but the PSC does have a requirement that would apply.
Right.
That it's at least as tall as the.
Yep, Austin?
Oh, we do have it.
Jane, this is language from McLean County, is that correct?
Yes, so McLean County's ordinance, we're just kind of looking at it. It was brought to my attention, so I brought it to the planning and zoning board.
Okay. Do
Okay,
you have a section that I can use reference?
We got it.
Patty just pointed out for the setback portion in here, but yes, so the section is 6.5.11 for wind and solar energy facilities. Under
The
McLean
internet
County.
says that North Dakota, wind setbacks for non-participating landowners' property lines are at least 1.1 times the turbine's height with a minimum of 1,320 feet.
Okay, yep, and so Patty just pulled this up because I don't have the wind one in front of me. That is what we have. We have 1 1/4 times the height of the turbine or 1,320 feet, whichever is greater.
Yeah.
So we already have that. I don't know where I think we originally had 500 feet.
I think
There was
that's when we
something
were
with 500
The
feet.
battery
and-
is 500 feet
Okay, maybe that's where I got mine.
from.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, so
Yeah, we have the right one, I mean.
yeah, so that part I think is okay, but as far as this, I'm really leaving it up to you. If you want to add this in each individual one, or if we want to do it under, like the conditional use requirements. I personally am fine with however you would like to do it. I just want to make sure when I send it to
If it
Patrick,
was
it's okay,
conditional
so.
use, it would be any of them that,
Unless we
Potentially fall under
specifically
that.
say,
Right,
like, for, this
Yes.
only applies to wind, solar.
Do we have to have a hearing to change our conditional use permits?
In the ordinance. So we have the requirements of a conditional use permit in our ordinance, and then on the permit application itself, it lists different requirements. If we want to add something like this, we will have to amend the ordinance, which is doable.
Just to put it in these two, because we already have a hearing.
I mean, that, I don't have an issue with that, I
that's
just,
fine also.
yeah,
Just
I
add it
agree.
into both of these and do it all at once.
If that's what you guys would like to do.
That would probably be quicker.
Can I provide one comment on the avoidance zone piece?
Mhm.
It's been a while since I looked at the Mercer County ordinances, but my recollection is that they can set that in response to a project. So the developer comes in, hey, we got this project, and then the county would say, well, we're gonna create a avoidance zone where you wanna put your project. Just wanna flag that creates a lot of
This would
uncertainty
be
for.
prior to application. That's what
Yeah,
this is saying. It's a preliminary thing where you would come to us and say, hey, we're planning to do this here. It gets brought to the board we look at it, it goes to the commissioners and, you know, public can come in and say, I'm not so sure that, yeah, absolutely, I kind of missed that part, but yes, I did read that, so it's prior to them submitting their actual application, because by that time, you guys have already had everything pretty much buttoned up, right? Like you've gotten the
County can't just
landowner.
arbitrarily make landing zones, it has to be public input.
Right, but this is, what he's saying is that this is not after they submit the application, it's not at the conditional use permit hearing, it is prior to them even submitting anything, because that helps them in planning, correct? In a sense?
In theory, my concern would be that there'd be a lot of work done by the developers prior to even discussing this with the county, so they might, you know, think they have a good location and get some agreements and then bring it up and, well, you can't build half your site because now we're creating an avoidance zone.
Well, and I get what you're
I
saying,
think
I
that
think,
subject would come up when they're getting their agreements, because the people that are getting the agreements from would be the ones to come in and say, hey, we want this to be excluded, we don't want this here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a way you can make the concept work, but I think really if you wanted to do that, you'd want to start thinking about areas now as opposed to if it's in response to a project that's
which
already
is,
being
yeah,
built.
where we're currently not developing, but updating our comprehensive plan, which would have a lot of this information already, which would help us to create these prior to anybody even coming in. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But if a landowner comes in that maybe doesn't have mineable area, but, you know, is doing conservation or trying to do conservation, and we aren't aware of that, that's maybe kind of where this would a little bit more come into play. But yeah, I mean, you guys tell me.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's gonna be the board or the commission that are gonna be creating these zones, it's gonna be a public awareness thing, the public are gonna recommend to us
Yeah.
the exclusion area, the public that lives there wants to protect. So I mean, I would side with the public, so if we have something in place that the public knows that they can come in and,
Well, it certainly gives them an option,
right, to exercise their
gives
right.
them a little bit of a
I mean,
voice.
Exactly.
You know, another way to look at it too is I hesitate to put too many restrictions on what people can do with their land.
Can I make a quick comment here?
Yep.
I think from our perspective, you know, we've got a project that we're already developing. We're getting close to being able to submit for a permit on. So this, granted, I'm just reading through this now, but this seems like it could be put in kind of arbitrarily. And if I'm not mistaken, doesn't McLean County have a moratorium on wind?
Not that I'm aware of. They used to,
They did.
but they actually just had, I believe, a company submit an application, which was rejected, I think, because of a lot of this.
They
I
did.
believe so.
Yeah, in the last
Yep.
year or two, they
Yep. So they do not currently have a moratorium. I think they did previously, but
They did, yeah, but,
Yeah.
no, is that the 49 wind, I think it was
No.
called?
I don't remember.
That's
what
Mercer
it
County.
was.
McLean is
yeah.
a different
Oh,
one.
McLean, okay. Yeah, Mercer
I
County,
think it was
Mercer County
Discovery
did have
Wind.
it too.
Okay,
Is the one you're thinking of.
yeah. Because I think they had this massive hearing, they had to move locations because
It
there
was
were a
in a
lot of
courtroom.
people that showed up and, yeah.
Yeah, but the only point I was trying to make on that is, you know, with some of the PSC has their avoidance and exclusion criteria too.
Mhm.
But those, you know, as you're working to see where can we get agreements from landowners and where is a viable spot to build the project, you can look and see like, okay, well, we might have some avoidance here or we have these avoidance. So it helps the developer, you know where they can build a project. My concern with this would be that you've already done a lot of that work, come to the county, and then boom, a new area is created that's off limits.
Who's the one creating the new area?
Wouldn't it be the county under the avoidance?
No, it would have to be the citizens come in and request it from the county. Very citizens that you're saying they'd be getting the permission from during the planning part of it. So I guess it's the time frame that I see differently. I see, you know, maybe you have a developer that wants to go to an area and, you know, create a subdivision, for instance. But then you have somebody that's got cattle right next to it, and another person's got cattle behind them, and it's just not gonna work for what they're trying to do with, you know, their livestock in their area. So the developer's gonna go to them probably and either try to purchase some of that pasture to build more houses on, and they're gonna find out that somebody wants to build 120 single-family homes here. And then they're gonna come to the county and say, hey, I've got a close by developer who wants to build 120 single-family homes right next to my property, so we don't want that there. So then that's gonna create the option for the public hearing for who else doesn't want it there. And then when we have enough people to agree and say that shouldn't be there, then the county creates that exclusion zone. That's the way I would see it. It gives the citizen, the landowners in the prospective developed area to have an avenue to protect their interests. I mean, because there are times where, you know, some of these people pass away and they sell off 120 acres, or their kids sell it instead of paying the inheritance tax. And then the next thing you know, you got Costco and strip mall and all of this stuff in North Bismarck that was never there before. All of that was agricultural land, 12 years ago. And now it's all, at some point, if there was somebody out there that had 4,000 acre ranch, they probably wouldn't want a Costco right next to their cattle. So if they could have had the opportunity to come in and like maybe slow the growth in a different direction to where it isn't affecting what they have going on, it's an avenue. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, and I get the reason for the concept. I guess I just have to see kind of the process, you know, maybe spell out what are appropriate grounds for an avoidance area. I know that might be hard to pin down, but.
Well, from my perspective, I'm here to represent citizens. I'm not here as any type of government or county official. So for the government to just be whipping up exclusion zones in the county, I wouldn't even vote on something like that. That's not how this should be. It should be for the citizens. There shouldn't be anybody in here, or I don't feel like my position in here is to represent Oliver County government with the industries. I'm here to represent the citizens, and I'm an appointed person for the county. So I mean, I'm doing what's to benefit the citizens that live here, not from the government aspect. So I wouldn't want to just arbitrarily block any type of industry. It would be the citizens that I would stand up for when they want something blocked. That's my perspective on and why I agree to it.
I mean, in this first, just kind of as in here, it says proposed project map. I guess not knowing, obviously you guys have a lot that goes into picking where you're going, but if you have a general area and you submit that and say, we want to potentially come here, and not after you've done a lot of the other parts of it, I would say that would constitute having this preliminary hearing to have people's input that live there saying like, yeah, I'd be fine with it, or, you know, no, because we have this, or I have mineral rights for coal or whatever.
But they'd have to have a good reason. They couldn't
Right.
just come in and say, we don't want to look at wind energy. You know, they can't just say, we don't like how they look, we don't want it here. That would be,
That's
I
a
think,
valid reason.
yeah, a valid reason. Somehow, some effect it's gonna have. You know, maybe they do something in the back of their ranch and, you know, the windmills around them are gonna, you know, keep the geese from landing in these ponds that they have for the past 120 years.
So
Now, all that's gonna change. That'd be a good reason, in my opinion, to not put wind energy.
So who gets to decide what a valid reason is?
I think the citizens that live there. And with-
Yeah,
within
in
the
a
scope
way, I
of,
think you
guess,
have to
the
do
law.
it within a scope, the scope of the law, which is kind of what, when I did send this to Patrick for his opinion on it, because I said this was kind of recommended to me, Ladd did write it as the state's attorney up there, what are your thoughts? He said, obviously it has to be a valid reason, you can't just, pick something just because.
Right.
So yeah, within the scope of the law, I feel that if this comes about, if it gets exercised as creating an avoidance zone, we do have to consult with our state's attorney, saying, this is the reasons that they're asking for it. Is this valid? If he says, no, that's not a valid reason, then we can't do it.
This does seem like it would be up to interpretation and extremely difficult to plan around. And I'm not sure if anyone else from the industry has thoughts on this, but again, this is the first time I'm able to look through that, but that creates a large risk in my mind and difficult to plan around and could be arbitrary and up to interpretation.
I agree with those comments. I'm looking at the McLean County ordinance right now. I don't have the paper in front of me what's in the room, and if it's what exactly is from their ordinance, it does say after a wind developer would submit their proposed site location, that's when these avoidance areas would be identified. So just to mirror Austin's comments, these avoidance zones could be, this would be following landowner. So as everyone in the room probably understands, we go through, at least I'll speak to NextEra's processes, and I'm sure whatever other renewable developer has to do. But we go and work with each landowner to site infrastructure on their property prior to finalizing our project boundary. So that is kind of done already within the project. So this just seems like, kind of to Austin's point, a way for folks to try and stop development.
Yeah, this is mostly about
all
mineral
landowners
rights.
would have that chance to give input while creating the infrastructure on their property. And as Eric in the room mentioned, the North Dakota PSC, we follow everything outlined not only through their ordinance, but also the county ordinances that we want to build in. And those include all avoidance zones, wetlands, tribal, cultural, other sensitive areas we avoid as it is. So this would be pretty arbitrary, right? I don't know what other avoidance areas could pop up, and that kind of worries me as well.
I think also, if there's a coal lease that's on the surface, that goes back to the surface owner's rights versus the mineral rights there. And that's something that we will work with the surface owner and mineral owner on, typically.
And I guess if the concern is mineral development, typically these developers are going to be avoiding areas where there's likely to be mineral development just because of the dominant estate issues. Because it's, if someone's got an active coal lease, it's pretty risky to spend millions of dollars developing other projects on top of that, where the mineral developer could come in and
and it seems like this could be retroactive as well, right? I don't know. It seems like we've been having these conversations about wind for a while, and I thought we kind of put a pin in all this. Just personally.
I'm not sure how any of this could be retroactive. It would only apply if it went forward.
Right.
Well,
I
it
mean,
can't be
this first part,
retroactive.
it's within 60 days of receiving a proposed project map, unless good cause is shown to extend the time. I don't know that it would apply to permits that were, received prior to this, or projects that were done prior to this. It would just be anything new possibly coming.
Yeah, I guess after this week, I go over here. It almost seems like the PSC already has protections in place for where the coal is. I mean, I totally see what Austin's saying about how it just kind of adds to it, and I don't know, does the coal actually have the protection from the state? I mean, if the PSC is gonna look out for the coal first anyway, why do we need to put something in there? Because this is mostly about mineral rights, you know?
Mostly,
Right.
you know, the one thing that was said to me when it was recommended that I just look at this and bring it forth was that this is a way for both resident landowners and non-resident landowners to have an equal say in what is happening within the county on this development. I am, like I said, I'm bringing this information to you. What you do with it
that
is
aspect of
ultimately
it.
up
That's
to you.
why I, making the argument for it, because I want landowners and the people that are living here to have as many rights as possible when it comes to standing up for their land and where they live at. And I do understand the fact there are people who live in Arizona or Utah and own a lot of land here that other people are here living and maintaining and making a living off of. You know, so you got somebody here that's living a living off of the land that somebody else owns. And then that person in Arizona decides they want to put wind energy on there. And I totally agree with the renter being able to fight that. I mean, if you got a 50-year lease or something on some of this land, I don't know, how long people are signing leases for or what kind of commitments are being made, but I agree. There should be more of a voice for people. Again, I'm not trying to make it too strict on the industries. I just think if things were written in a more applicable legal way to protect the landowner versus everything always being about what kind of revenue can be generated. I mean, that seems to be the biggest decision maker in most of the stuff that actually gets pushed to take in or pull out of here is how much is it going to cost and how much is it going to make somebody else. So, I mean,
the agreements, I think across the board, at least in the wind space or with the landowner, and it kind of goes back to property rights. And I think you do have an avenue for folks that might not be in favor of any sort of development to speak up at a public hearing, just like any other parts of the country and other parts of North Dakota, including the state hearing rate. So there's already an avenue for that. Again, just take a quick high-level look at this, but that's kind of what I'm seeing.
I feel like if the wording in here where it talks about the person using the land, if we would have put that in other places in our ordinance, it would give them that right and that ability there too. But I think it might have got brought up that them just being a renter legally doesn't give them the right. It might give them more consideration at the commission because it's in the ordinance. But legally, if somebody, was making a couple $100,000 a year off of wind energy, could probably hire a lot better attorney than the person that's renting that to feed their cows. And if they wanted to fight them, it's going to be, I'm going to run you off my land and I'm going to build wind energy. That's what's going to end up happening to somebody. They're going to lose everything because it makes somebody mad that don't even live here. So that's a possibility you got to take into consideration too.
That said, landowners should have rights.
Well, right.
Right.
But if they own the land and they don't even live here and they haven't lived here for 25 years and they don't ever plan on moving back here, they just own the land. I mean, they have the rights and everybody that's living on the land doesn't, but has to deal with the torn up roads and all of that. I know it's just kind of rehashing the whole thing over again, but that's kind of where a lot of this stuff even started. And
the option right now is, I brought this to you guys for consideration. We don't have to do anything with it. We don't have to add it in anywhere. Right now, we can think about it. Whatever you guys want to do.
I think we should run it by Patrick and ask him if he thinks legally would it be better to try to put something like that in there, or maybe change a couple of words in the already ordinance.
Well, I can definitely ask him. Obviously, like I said, I did send this to him, and he responded back. No, he's not. All he told me is that provided the inclusion of an avoidance zone is thoroughly discussed and specific reasons for creating the zone are articulated prior to an adoption of it, he doesn't see an issue with the language itself. It has to be a valid reason. That is where it can't just be because this neighbor doesn't like this neighbor and
Exactly.
we don't want it there.
You
You can't do
have
that
to define what valid means though. It's a pretty vague term.
within the scope of the law. I mean, that's, I know.
That's gonna be the fun interpretation for us at a hearing.
Well, and
And
that's
that's
where
where
our state
Patrick's
attorney has
gonna
to come
have to
into
be.
play and help us to, that's why he said, he said it has to be thoroughly discussed. We cannot just be like, yep, this is what we wanna do. He has to be a part of that discussion.
As far as like,
Yeah,
what's it called, an exclusion zone, avoidance zone?
Avoidance zone.
Is there like a minimum or maximum of how big that is?
Not that I saw in here, I would say.
If they have like a
probably-
20-acre where they wanna put them, we can't just put it those 20
Just like
acres.
make the entire county. and
But we,
Yeah,
yeah,
I know.
but
We can't really do that, like.
we can't do probably a section either. I didn't know how big or small that could be as far as like
I mean,
development.
is there not isn't there like a 99-year conservation easement down on your end of the county? Like, you can't do anything in there, and that's a few sections worth, isn't it?
Everything that wraps mine all the way to the county line where he owns is all in a 99-year federal conservation easement. Can't do anything about it.
Right.
You can graze it, you can keep fences up, but you can't do anything else with it.
Mhm.
To me, that technically is considered an avoidance zone also. You couldn't put anything
Effectively,
there,
it's the
so.
same thing.
Maybe
Yeah.
rather than putting this in the ordinance, maybe we just recommend that somebody sign a federal protection on their land.
If they want-
Away.
If they want protection, that's kind of on them to say, I wanna do this, I guess. But yeah, like I said, just brought up for discussion. I know it kinda got a little, we dug up a little bit from wind and stuff, but it was recommended to me by a few different people, that I don't know for sure, Mercer County might use something similar, or they were looking into doing something similar.
I just feel like
It's up to you
PSC
guys.
could still override it even if we tried to make an exclusion zone because citizens wanted it to. But the PSC said, well, there's no pole or nothing under there, go ahead. And then,
This would slow the process though. PSC could probably still override it, but like you said, protecting
right,
everybody around.
It brings it
If they
into
take it to the
consideration. And that also is where if we don't do anything like this, and we have a conditional use permit hearing, and we have landowners that come in and say, we don't want this here because of this, this, and this, and it is a legitimate reason, we can put that in there. I'm pretty sure the PSC looks at our stuff, because usually developers, when wind companies come to the counties prior to going to the PSC, I think the PSC likes to see that they've worked with the counties and the landowners before submitting an application. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, because that's just what it's been explained to me, that's kind of how the process typically goes. The PSC does take into consideration why we did or did not approve an application, or we put these conditions onto an application. That's what a conditional use permit is for. If we have conditions, we can add them on there within reason. Please don't think nothing out of bounds or anything. But if we say, well, we're not so sure about this part of it, but by that time, obviously, like you said, everything is pretty much buttoned up because of landowner agreements and everything. But that is why we do have these hearings. So this was just, like I said,
Yeah,
brought
I
forward.
think I want to reiterate how many avoidance zones a renewable energy developer is already facing, based on county restrictions as well as North Dakota PSC restrictions. There's already if you have a, project boundary, so to speak, there's already a very limited amount of room for infrastructure to be sited. And again, that's based on existing county and state requirements. This just would open up, in my opinion, a very arbitrary can of worms for folks to come in, and especially the tenant piece concerns me. I know that was mentioned, but to block neighbors, right? I think the neighbor piece is big. In a perfect world, it wouldn't, work out like that, but I could see it play out like that.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly, I think this kind of opens up the county to more liability or more interpretation, I'd say, or that this could be interpreted a bunch of different ways. And the renter piece is definitely would be a concern. A lot of times those concerns come much later in the game, in the whole development process. But I think at the end of the day, it goes back to property rights issues from the owner.
Yeah, that's gonna be the question for Patrick. Is it worth doing if the property legally in the state of North Dakota, if the landowner is gonna have the right to override the renter? Is it worth putting in here if they can just get to the Supreme Court of North Dakota and boom, they lose because it's already in the law?
Well, and that I can ask him, his like I said, his response to me after the initial look over, he didn't have an issue with the language. Obviously, an attorney did write this language, so it's not like it was just all of us writing it. So he didn't see an issue, like I said, so long as it's thoroughly discussed and talked about what these avoidance zones would look like and why. He did not see an issue with it, but in implementing it into our ordinance would be the question. How is this acceptable? Is this not? I can definitely ask him. If you guys want to give me a list of questions to ask him, I sure can. But yeah, so if we want to,
I think we should put
a pin in this one.
The question
and
would
then
be for him is, would this afford citizens that live here an actual legal protection within the county ordinance? I mean, there's a couple of weird scenarios. I'm over here trying to think of why somebody would want to have an exclusion zone if they didn't have coal under their land or something
well,
like
like I
that.
said,
But
one example
what if
was
they have an
hunting.
ultralight and they
A
want
what?
an ultralight?
Plane.
It's a small airplane.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
if you had an ultralight and you wanted to have a small airstrip on your private property, you're probably not going to want to have to take off and land in between wind energy. So I mean, I could see somebody.
That's taken care of at the FAA level.
We had
For somebody with an ultralight that takes off on their private property.
we had a resident come in for a conditional use permit last year
Mm-hmm.
to get a just prairie airstrip, and it is currently in the middle of the newest project out there.
Is it?
So
So yeah, that was probably one of the only oddball scenarios I could.
yeah, no, and we have that oddball scenario, I guess. So
So if I can make just one more comment on this. I mean, I think that the concern from industry, and I should have said this at the beginning of the meeting, my name's Eric Edison. I'm an attorney with Crowley Flack in Bismarck. I work with NextEra. So I think the concern with industry is that nobody knows what this looks like, and it creates a concern that, you submit your plan, and then after you put a bunch of work in, and then all of a sudden part of your project can't go through. And really, we're talking about voluntary easements here. So if someone doesn't want this stuff on their property, then they just don't sign an agreement. And and I think, not knowing what valid reasons for avoidance areas are, it's just tough to manage the risk, or, from the developer perspective. And I think another thing to consider is that there's a lot of things that the PSC and the county can consider when they're reviewing these applications. And I suspect that a lot of the what would be a valid reason for an avoidance area could also be a valid reason to consider when you're considering a permit too. Just something to consider, but it's.
I guess my only question on it is, McLean County has had this in place for quite a while now. And so the concerns that you're addressing, how do they handle it up there? You know, I mean, because if they have it in
They put
place
there for a
already,
reason, it's in their ordinance.
what is it, I mean, what is the,
And I do know some landowners over there, and I can ask them, and maybe you know this, but if there was a proposition for a wind farm over there, I don't know what the term is, but, obviously there's valid reasons where it got rejected, well, for those reasons. So there's where our valid would be, I don't know what they are,
So-
I would have to ask,
I
find out,
believe,
maybe you know.
and don't quote me on this, the Discovery Wind Project, some of their reasons were concerns about roads and environmental wildlife impacts. Now, that was never challenged, whether that was a valid reason to deny the permit or not. I'd be interested to know if they have actually created an avoidance area, since they enacted this ordinance.
Good questions.
I mean,
Well, there
definitely
would be
something
that.
that we can look into and I can find out that information for you before we would do anything. I mean,
Yeah, I
like,
think we should.
that's fine. Like I said, this was merely information. What we do with it after this is up to
Yeah,
you guys.
I'm not against having any more protections in for the citizens.
Yeah.
Anything more we could put in on. I'm for it, if it's, legal.
You know, your point about somebody that wants to fly a small airplane, I don't think I should give up the rights on my land so that he can fly his airplane. And there was
True, but if you own 4 acres and the other people own 8,000 around you, and all of them came in and said, yeah, we don't want you to have 2 windmills right there in the middle of, I don't know, I guess it's one of those things to where it's, what are the reasons? You know, if they have valid reasons why, I would like to see what some valid reasons are.
I can ask some questions. We don't have to do anything with this, just kind of for your consideration. We don't have to do anything with it at all if we get answers that,
We can come back to it at a different time,
yeah, I agree.
absolutely.
I agree.
because it's already 10 after 8.
Still,
No.
it's still early.
Yeah, I was so used to the last meeting getting over in 20 minutes.
So I guess, do you guys wanna
Just
go
keep-
through these or table it? I mean, I'm fine with whatever. You guys tell me. We have our plan for the 2 that we are done with.
Yeah, and let's leave it at that.
And
Let's
we
not
can leave it at that.
try
No,
to add
that's
things
fine.
now.
I don't have an issue with that at all. If, like I said, once something is passed and put into place, we can amend it. It is a
Yeah.
process to amend it, similar to this, maybe not as long, but if we see a word in there that we just don't like, I mean, it's doable. So, you
I'd
guys
like
tell
to
me,
get some background on that from McLean County.
I can absolutely do that. Can find more information, or I can even see if Laz would be willing to call in at a meeting and discuss it with us. And have Patrick available also to get that information too, so.
If this would help in the conversation, we've seen some other counties that have avoidance from quote sensitive sites. That is a bit up to interpretation as well, but we have seen that where those can be defined as Native American artifact areas or mounds or things like that. But things that can be planned around if necessary, but not. Something that can be planned around and not arbitrary and up to interpretation.
And I think we do already have something about archaeological sites within the ordinance. We did add
Well, at
that.
that point, the historical society's gonna step in anyway, especially if there's any federal funding.
Well, that like every fall between like mine and Gary's place, back through there, there's like 100,000 geese that land out there when they're migrating. So something like that, I think if wind energy started popping up all over, I think it would mess with that migration pattern.
Terrain out on our end of the county isn't what conducive to wind tower.
Right, but I'm just saying, if there was another area that was, but there's also several ponds with these, massive amounts of geese that are landing at year after year after year, you're not gonna wanna start sticking those in the middle of that. And the only people that live there are gonna be the ones that see that happen year after year after year.
And
There's also AVNU studies that are required by the state that are done for at least 2 years for every site in North Dakota.
yeah, there's pretty significant coordination with Game and Fish on some of the wildlife impacts. And then also the State Historical Preservation Office with the cultural stuff too. So that's pretty significant work that needs to be done, and the PSC reviews it.
Table the last two solar data center for possibly just start doing work sessions.
Yeah, we haven't actually gotten anybody calling in to see about getting a permit for one yet, have we?
No, I have not gotten any phone calls. I mean, you just kind of hear bits and pieces from residents saying like, well, I heard so-and-so did an agreement with a solar company, or, somebody talked about a data center or whatever, but without any phone calls, hey, we're gonna submit a permit, I have no concrete information. But definitely something we do need to, we need to buckle down on these ones, but it doesn't have to be tonight.
90 days out.
Our 90 days, I mean, I'm pretty sure we passed that because it was kind of July timeframe, so technically, yes, our moratorium is done, but it's fine. Obviously, I haven't heard much of anything.
We don't have to publish anything about that, do we?
No, it was just the 90 days and, so you guys told me to all the permits are doing that, it's 8:15, so.
I'll end up on that.
Shoot, I'm breaking stuff. I mean, and my only question would be is, would you like to start scheduling some work sessions? I mean, if you wanna do that, I don't wanna take up everybody's time, I know that
I think
it
after
gets to be a lot.
I think after the processes with, the resources they're helping provide.
Yeah,
And now that we've done the other two, I think since these are already, drafted,
yeah, and you guys, Sarah and Austin, you have copies of the solar and data center, correct? And I know Sarah said you had kind of talked to some of your people within NextEra. I guess question for you would be is if we have a work session, or do you have your recommendations on these, or are we still kind of waiting on those?
Yep, I have some solar comments. I haven't had a chance to combine them yet in a manner to send those over to you all. So Jaden, my goal is to send those to you as soon as possible.
Okay.
The data center team had not given me any feedback yet, and I don't work with them closely, to be honest, with this group, and I wanted them, similar to the battery team, to come in either in person or perhaps via the OWL, give an overview of how NextEra cites data centers and answer any questions on data centers. If you want, I could ask if a member of their team would be available for the meeting on the 28th, unless you plan on scheduling a special meeting. I could pivot and see if they're available that meeting. But I think that would be a reasonable amount of time to give them. And I plan on sending the solar comments from engineers. These are comments from engineers, environmental consultants.
Oh man, engineers, Sarah, man.
Yeah, so the experts, right? Not just from me. So I plan on combining all those comments, getting those to you from the solar ordinance. The data center team, though, I would like to have them actually come and weigh in themselves.
I mean,
and they can speak to other developments that they're working on, or they've worked on at other companies.
in my opinion, I felt that having those that work with Bess when they came and kind of just explained it.
That was really
That
good.
was very helpful to us, because obviously we have no idea, just to kind of give that information. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna leave it up to the board to let me know how they would like to handle that as far as a timeline. I don't like taking up your guys' evenings for all these special meetings, but this is important work, so if you're willing, then I will also sacrifice time and,
I think the month of August would probably be
that's gonna be kind of, yeah.
Before school starts.
Right.
Well,
and
yeah.
Well, school starts 21st.
School starts on the 20th for
we start
center.
the 19th with practice starting the 18th.
Yeah, so I mean, and I have 2 going to school for the first time, so.
I've got one.
Yeah, so you
What
guys,
did we say about going an hour earlier?
we've talked about it, if we start at 6. I know there was some, I think Jody said it would be kind of hard because she'd be coming in.
Oh,
from
that's
Bismarck,
right. Okay.
from work. I don't know about
Troy said it was hard, but
Troy- yeah,
it's hard
Troy, I
all the
think,
time.
said-
So.
it was kind
What's
of
that
hard.
7 is not here, so
Well,
there's that.
he's still in Sturgis, I guess, so.
Priorities.
Yeah, but like I said, you guys tell me, and we don't have to decide tonight. Maybe get an idea, do you want to do work sessions in August? Or do we do this hearing and then we really get going? I mean, and like Sarah said, if she can have somebody from her data center group come up and
Give
just
them
talk
a
to
little more
us.
time to get them.
Maybe a little bit more planning time for you to get them
It's
here.
really helpful to have those fast guys here.
Yep. I
I
think by the
28th.
plenty of time, but even if it's sooner, even if it's just to get over the owl, I don't think it would be a problem to get someone
Okay.
between now and even if it's sooner.
Okay.
It should be fine.
Why don't you wait till the 20th?
Okay.
Get
So
these other.
acceptable to everybody? I mean, I don't
We got a
like
lot
you
going on in
as
the
much as
office, so-
everybody else. Yes, we do. I mean, on the other side of my job, there's obviously a lot going on too. And Patty's got a lot going on. So sacrificing evenings is
I'm just sorry.
not always ideal.
August is a very hard time for me, so because I got conferences and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, we got budgets and mill levies and
yeah,
all that fun stuff and
Yes.
just the regular stuff.
Yeah, I am perfectly fine not doing a special meeting. It's fine.
well, I would just suggest going through the ordinances that we did and just the drafts.
Yeah,
So on the 28th, yeah.
Yes, take these home, look through them, write comments, bring them to the meeting on the 28th. We will go through our hearing and have a brief hey, I don't like this, we should have this, get comments from the industry and go from there. Okay, so we're tabling solar and data center for tonight. And I will just move it to the next meeting.
I would like to see if we can add something to the agenda for the next meeting.
You tell me, I will add whatever until we approve the agenda at the next meeting, so.
Have another short discussion on moving forward with industrial zones.
Okay.
Whether or not it's something that is brought up with the comprehensive plan review also, so that we can start potentially having an industrial zone into consideration when we're having the discussions on these other
And I know,
ordinances.
like I said, however meetings ago that was, Lad, Patrick, Todd.
How's that coming along?
I asked him the other night, he said Lignite Energy Council is the one that's kind of heading that research basically, because they had turnover in who their director is. It was Jason Bohr and now it's Jonathan Fortner as the interim. There's just been turnover, and so it hasn't been on their highest of priorities, but they are, kind of, doesn't, obviously with comprehensive plan work, we could ask them as we're going through it, like, hey, do you recommend, or do you have a
They're gonna be looking at a lot of maps, that's why I thought of it.
Yes, there will be a lot of maps that we will have access to, so. Yep, no, I can definitely add that as a part of discussion for next meeting.
Sure.
And then we'll go from there.
Would that be it?
I have nothing else. Do you guys have any final comments on teams here?
I was just trying to reiterate my statements on the wind portion. I was thinking we had a pin in all that, and some of those things seemed a bit difficult to plan around. So that's all I wanted to reiterate. But thank you very much for having us, and it's been really easy to hear everybody on the owl as well. So thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah.
That'd be it.
Anything else?
Meeting adjourned.
Okay.